up.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to All That Talk Show, where we strive to entertain, empower, and educate. I am your co-host, Olivia.
I'm Callie.
And I'm Shang.
And today we have a very special guest co-host joining us all the way from sunny California. We have Miss Olivia.
Hi, guys.
For being a part of the conversation, and thank you for joining our show today.
I love seeing your pretty face.
Thank you. I fixed it for you guys.
Looking beautiful as always. All right, so before we dive into this crazy topic of cheating perceptions, I wanted us to spend a little bit of time to introduce ourselves. The last time we went on live, the introduction piece kind of got cut off. So I want to make sure that the audience gets to know who we are, our names at least, at minimum. So we'll just kind of do a round robin around the table just to kind of let everyone know what your name is, what you're most looking forward to in this specific conversation that we're about to have, and an act of kindness that you have either done or something that you've seen most recently with all the craziness that's happening. We need to spread more joy. So which one of you ladies want to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Again, I'm Callie, and I'm looking forward to just hearing all of your opinions and thoughts, because I know that this is something that I think really kind of goes back to like the disparity between how men and women are treated in our culture, and this is just such a blatant, way, because it can be so demeaning. So I'm really, really excited about that. And then my act of kindness. So there was this post that was going around, and I don't think that it was from Olivia's post. I felt like it was from somebody else's post, right? So like in the post, you're supposed to comment your name, and all I saw was free, right? So I'm like, oh, I want to, it's free. I'm going to post my name so I can get something free. And so then when I actually went back and read the post, it said that you have to actually give what was it, Olivia? Do you remember this?
You have to do pretty much like an act of kindness for that person.
Right.
That
you have to send 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
I know. So what ended up happening was that I got one gift. I had to give 5. So unfortunately, I didn't read very much into that. But so I did have to send some people gifts, but it's all good. So that's my act of kindness. But next time, learn to read. That's a note for me.
Somebody can give you a book as an act of kindness.
Yeah.
You can practice reading.
I know.
Well, since I'm yapping away already, I'll go and introduce myself. I'm Arlene. I am from California and Sacramento metro area. Super excited to be on here. So thank you, Shang, Olivia, Callie, for having me. I'm excited. I just love conversations talking about, things that affect us. Deeply rooted things that truly do affect us, that we carry on from our heritage, our culture, our childhood to our adult lives, and it's things that we pass on to our children. So I'm excited for today's topic and whatever other topics that I might have the fortune of being a part of in the future. And one act of kindness is, you guys know I don't really cook, and with this whole quarantine, I've been learning how to cook. So I've had, friends come by and pick up food. And I'll be
cooking. What have you cooked?
You know what? I've been doing egg rolls, a lot of egg rolls.
Woo-hoo,
so I had friends.
Nice.
Yeah. So I've been doing egg rolls, and that's been my thing. I mean, I can't do anything else.
I'm sure you can, Arlene. I'm sure you can.
You know what? Food always brings us together, right? Even in times like this. So, I've been doing that. If anybody wants to come by, if you guys are local, hit me up. But yeah, I'm just happy to be a part of this. And I thank you ladies so much for, being pioneers. So
thanks for being on.
Yes. Well, I guess I'll go next. I'm Shang, and what I'm really looking forward to this conversation is just that each and every one of us, we have a different background and different opinions and how we were raised. And I'm looking forward to having this conversation, because that's where it starts. Conversations drive change, and it starts here with us. And so I'm definitely looking forward to that. One act of kindness I did this week was baking a cake for my nephew. Since this quarantine started, it's pretty sad that, especially people like us who celebrate our birthdays in March and April, we didn't really get to celebrate that with our close friends and families. And so I wanted to extend that kindness to him.
Yeah, that's so true. I feel so bad for all the birthdays, including my own that's coming up on the 11th of May, just in case anybody wants to send me anything. I know it's really kind of crazy, because actually Mason's teacher wrote an email and just asked all the students to kind of either take a picture or like sing a song and forward those emails over to her so that she can disperse it to the kids that have their birthday. So.
Oh, that is sweet.
That's nice.
Aww.
All right. Well, I'm Olivia. I am one of your co-hosts for All That Talk. And what I'm most excited about for this conversation, again, it's just the engagement within folks within our community. I think it's a topic that it's much needed. It's a conversation that it's much needed, I think, for us to really talk about how women are treated, and the perception of women when they cheat versus men, and kind of like what Callie said, where are the disparities, but really engaging with our audience and having that conversation, and in hopes that we can all take it back to have a conversation within our own inner circles to kind of make that, I don't know, shine some light on that topic a little bit, right? And then my one act of kindness, I think along with Callie, I read that chain, and I intentionally posted it and intentionally meant well for people. And so I think just following through with what people have requested.
Oh, well,
so
I didn't get my gift, by the way.
You weren't on the top 3%. Sorry. But, I think out of that, there are people who comment just to get gifts, but then there are people who are in need of help because of the situation at hand, right? And so, I think that one thing that came out of that was that I helped somebody pay for a bill that they maybe didn't have enough funds to pay for it because of whatever.
I know what post you're talking about, and I could sworn that somebody had made some bread, and I could sworn I was like, I need some bread, and they would drop it off. What like come by, or I'll drop it off if you can't come by. And unfortunately, they didn't follow through. So
was that Shane?
I don't remember anybody telling me they were going to stop by.
Hey, Shane didn't read either. Okay, leave her alone. You got to pass the pass. Okay.
In that post, it was like, I can also drop it off. Right. So, anyways, but water on the bridge now.
Oh my goodness. So yeah,
I love you, Shane.
You better, because I'm the young TK over here.
Because it looked really good.
Right? Well, thank you for the awesome introduction, and we'll let Callie kind of kick off the topic that we're going to be diving into today.
Yeah, so as Olivia mentioned, this is something that is pretty important in our community, and something recently happened, and I won't give out any names, but it had to do with cheating. And when you go back and look at the videos and all the comments were really demeaning towards the woman that was in this scenario, and and those are things that you carry with you and take on. And so I feel like because it's so easy to demean women, that happens a lot in our community, right? When I think about like the bad words in our language for women, gosh, it's just so like I can't even say those words like as an adult now, because just thinking, when I was a child and hearing those things and just feeling like, God, like they're just super awful. And so the two questions that we really want to look at today are the first one being how are Hmong men and Hmong women viewed and treated when they cheat, because as much as I think that we want to say that, cheating itself is not a great thing, the way that our community looks at it between is completely different. And the second question is, has there been any change in how men and women are treated now, you know, in like current day and age versus maybe back growing up or even back further than that? And so those are the two questions that we are going to talk about today. Anybody want to start?
Okay, I'll go because I'll lose my train of thought. And I apologize. My water. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so one of the things that I was like kind of wanting to just ask our audience as they're listening is, you know, what do they consider cheating? I think that cheating can be viewed differently for different people, and so that's just an open-ended question to the audience of, you know, what do you consider cheating? Okay, back to Arlene.
And I have to apologize. My water feature keeps turning on, so I'm in my backyard, and for some reason, I think it's on some auto timer, so it keeps turning on. So excuse the noise.
I wish I had a water feature.
I wish you guys were out here. It's, you know, it's warm enough where we could probably jump in the pool and then jump into the spa.
I wish I had a pool, and I wish I had a spa.
California, we can build you one. So your first question, how are women, you know, how do I view that, you know, Hmong men and women are treated? You know, I mean, you know, I mentioned this before, you know, we started this conversation before we, you know, got online for the rest of the audience. And, you know, I really don't see that there's much of a difference. I mean, I'll be honest with you, because, you know, within, you know, I won't say who, but within my close enough like family, you know, I see this where I think a lot of things get swept under the rug. And yes, women, and I guess I'm going to answer this question not separated. Everything's, I think that everything ties in together, right? For families that are more Americanized, you know, some have adopted the Western way where, you know, they say, you know what, women have more power. You know, you should treat your, you know, your wife differently. You should treat your, you know, your women, you know, differently, your girls. And, you know, growing up, I experienced both. You know, my parents were very traditional. And so, you know, when I did something that went against, you know, just cultural norms, sometimes my dad would say, no, you know, we're not doing that. Or this is not okay, you know. And then as I got older, I think that was ingrained into me. And so, you know, I got into relationships, and my first relationship, like serious relationship, was, you know, there was abuse. And at first, you know, I put up with it for a bit, and I thought it was okay, right? And then, you know, over time, I did end up cheating in that relationship in high school. And I don't condone it. Okay. This is not saying, you know, that I recommend it, but I can understand why, you know, people cheat, because for me, it was like my way out. And so, I mean, I didn't realize it then, but looking back, I mean, I'm so glad it happened. You know, I thank God for that experience, because it led me elsewhere, you know, that, hey, I can be in a better relationship. Ultimately, I obviously didn't end up with either one of them, thank goodness. But I mean, I was slut shamed, you know. I don't know if you guys remember the slam books in high school. And some of these girls that wrote nasty things about me are my friends on Facebook today. And that's okay. I'm like, hey, it's water under the bridge. You know, I forgive you. It is what it is. But I mean, the labels stay, you know, they do. And I think as if you're somebody who's being labeled, you take it. It's easy for me to say because I think I have tougher skin than most people. But you have to take it with a grain of salt, you know? But yes, men and women are treated differently. I don't think it matters if you're Hmong or you're not. We're still treated differently. Men are labeled as, he's a player. That's what players do. You know what I mean? Girl, you knew he was a player, right? But when a woman does it, I mean, not that I condone it, but everybody has their own very personal reasons why they do it. You're a slut, you know, you are a hoe, you know, I mean, excuse my language, but you know, we're all adults here, you know, so we just have to keep it real.
Yeah, so I had somebody reach out to me when we posted this, and it was her spouse, her husband, that had cheated multiple times. And her in-laws basically told her, you know, just to be patient. And I mean, they even had to go and go pay the other, I guess. Yes, yeah. Like I just remember hearing that she also had to go, and I just felt like that's like the ultimate disrespect. Is like not only does your husband cheat on you, but now you also have to go to their family, right? And just be like now we also have to pay you guys, and now I can, and I think there's just so much insecurities that come in that, but definitely I think that the words that are described for women, like as hoes and like just like you said, slut, like I mean, that's hard to like get rid of, right? And I think at the end of the day, the Hmong community is so small, and when you have that name with you, but I think it's so hard to like recreate yourself or try to be a better person from that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I
do want to piggy.
Oh, go ahead.
I want to piggyback off of what Callie was saying, is that Hmong women, when the man ends up cheating, the woman is more patient, but then also they end up being at fault, right? And so when a man cheats, it becomes the woman's fault. It was this reason why he cheated. For example, she doesn't give him enough sex, and so he has to find it elsewhere, outside.
That is such a cop out. Like I mean, you're basically blaming the victim and just like twisting it around. I just feel like that's so twisted and frustrating.
But it is so common. It is so common. And it is the number one. I really do feel like in the Hmong community, and I hear it myself too, from the elders, from aunts, uncles, whenever there's a problem, they have to bring it to the community, council to talk about it, right? Mm-hmm. Where, well, if you can't, give it to him, then allow him to go get it somewhere else. Because guess what? Or I hear the words like, why would you break up your big life, right? Yeah. Over sex, which was, I mean, probably one of the original reasons why you got together. You know what I mean? Physical intimacy, I think, is a big part of that physical attraction, that initial physical attraction that, bonded you together anyway. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, it's, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to segue into, because I think this is a whole different topic. So I'll hand it back to you, Callie. But Shang, I feel you on that.
Yeah. I read in an article somewhere that talked about how women kind of like, how women, we cheat more from like 18 to like 30, but then after 30 on, it's men, and the gap is tremendous.
Really?
And so, yeah. And so
you remember why?
I didn't read quite into that deep of it, but there's also another article that talked about, from Dr. Robert Weiss, that talked about the reasons why women cheat versus men. And I think we can all assume this ourselves without any type of statistics, right? Like knowing that men cheat for sexual pleasures and women cheat for emotional needs, right? And so I feel like that does have something to do with where that it kind of starts changing, where men starts going like this and women is coming down from that. If we did a line graph, that's kind of the huge gap where maybe men need more sexual pleasures and women needs more emotional attachment. And maybe that's why, Arlene, when you were younger, for multiple reasons at that age, you were able to do it without even a second thought of maybe I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, it was very emotional. It was an emotional thing. And you know what? Actually, you bring up a really good stat, because I think about it. I mean, I in my 20s, I was just kind of floundering around, and then I got older, and I was just like, you know what? I think women, we start to get into this nesting mindset, right?
Right.
Where we say, you know what? I got to get my act together. I want to have a family. I want to have this. I don't want to die alone. I mean, I'm just speaking for myself. It's like, I got to get my act together. I got to get my finances together. And I no longer want to be friends with benefits, all of that. Right. I'm dating to get married. I mean, that was the thing with my husband. I was like, look, either I'm going to marry you or I'm not, but we're not going to fiddle faddle around. But I mean, in my younger years, it was more like, okay, it was a more, free love and all that good stuff. And then that's why you hear men where they have, either I'm going to get a younger wife, or I'm going to get a Corvette, a midlife crisis, or I'm going to go get a Niamo'a, right? Yeah, I think, yeah, I think there's a lot of truth into that. I definitely want to look into those statistics and like the research behind it.
Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
I did read an article that said men cheat because of the opportunities that are there. And piggybacking on what you're saying, Olivia, that women cheat, they take a longer time to make that decision to cheat, but ultimately they cheat for that emotional reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I think too, like, hope Mona, when women do cheat, I feel like the repercussions for them, it's always a lot worse, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's always put, the blame is always put back on her. Like, she didn't do X, therefore I had to go do Y with someone else.
Right.
And so I think, kind of going back to our topic on how are people viewed and treated, like, what do you ladies think? How do you think that it's changed now versus back then? And if so, how? Or
I
what
don't feel
has?
like, I mean, I think that there's still a lot of the older generation that's still alive, and I think that's a lot of the traditions are held with them. But even now, I mean, I think when Arlene had said, it's not just like in our culture, it's not just in the Hmong culture that women are abused, right? There's other cultures, even like in the US where it's like, playboys versus like a hoe, right? Like, I mean, playboys, everybody wants, I feel like that's kind of a badge of honor versus like if you do that as a woman, you're a hoe. And it's, I definitely feel like there's still, and this will probably never change, right? Because it's just, I sometimes wonder if it's because our organs are inside versus outside, right? And it just seems like it's such a, like that somebody's taking something from us, and that's why we are so demeaned that way. But yeah, just a lot of different things to think about from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that there's been much change. I think that with, of course, women's rights and whatnot, especially in the Hmong community, they say, oh, well, or whatever, because, right? They always talk about like, oh, she might call the cops on you. Like, don't do this, don't do that. But I think there's more just sweeping of the rug, and I think, yeah, I mean, to what Callie said, until the older generation, has completely passed, I think that we're always going to, um, experience this. And I mean, I don't even know if after the old generation has passed, if it's ingrained in their children, it's going to pass on.
Yeah,
it's something that is inherent, that is taught.
Yeah, I also feel like when it, and just my perception, I would like to hear what our audience thinks, but with when a woman cheats, it spreads like wildfire. And when men cheat, it's more likely to get covered, right? You don't talk about it, and you kind of because you don't want to damage, versus people just talking about women like like we're just objects and like we're used bubble gum or whatever it is,
right?
So it's definitely, I would say that from what my personal experience is that it's more talked about when it's a woman.
Yeah. Well, and I think we can't forget too, like, the reasons why. I think one of the questions that or comments that was made during when Callie had shared our when we introduced our topic, I think some of the comments that I read was that we need to talk about like why people even begin to start cheating, and when they do cheat as women, do we blame the other women or do we solely blame our husband? Where do we direct our anger? And I think sometimes as women we direct it towards the other women versus our partner, right? And so then it's kind of like we're also hindering ourselves from healing, because then we're not directing our anger at the right person, right? And I think that you I don't know the saying, and I'm not even gonna try to do it, but it's kind of like if other women don't kind of lead way, then the men won't follow. But I think if your commitment in your relationship is strong, my husband and I have talked about this too, where it's like we listen to a lot of Dunning or Ning Ning, right? And it talks a lot about like, oh, if you are with these type of people, then you're going to become like them, right? But it's like, no, Because if your relationship in the house is strong, where you have trust, communication, commitment to each other, and it's healthy, regardless of who you're surrounded by, yes, you may be influenced, but you know your true north, you know your truth, and you know that it doesn't matter who you're with, you know your partner is the person for you. And as long as you both understand that, then I think you should be fine. But I think the one thing we really do have to address is why people start cheating. And when they do, where do you direct your anger, and how do you overcome that if it's something that you want to work out, right?
Well,
What are your guys'
one
thoughts on
thing for
that?
sure, one thing is that a lot of times, like you mentioned, us women, we tend to get mad at the other woman. But what we need to remember is that the man that we're married to, they ultimately have that control of how much they will allow that woman to impact them, right? And so
Right.
they're the ones making that decision to cheat if it does go that far. And it takes two to tango. It doesn't take one person. So that's something that we, in general, women, like, we tend to perpetuate, is blaming that other woman, that it's that person's fault. She's the hoe. She's the one that did this to my husband, and he couldn't think except for down there, and that's the reason why he cheated. But in reality, it was both of them.
Yeah, and definitely women, I mean, in general, right? I think that we kind of, I mean, I've heard a lot of women put other women down. So it's not that's just like the Hmong community as a whole. It's like there are a lot of women that will keep, I mean, I think the general consensus, right, is that women do gossip a lot, right? And so like there's a lot of bad talking about people and keeping that going and talking down on people and I guess whatever life decisions that they make. And so I think that's something that we also have to think about, of just, like, if you hear something and it's not true, like, maybe you should probably stop it instead of continuing to degrade and demean somebody without knowing, like, the whole story. And I mean, and I guess I feel like I've seen that for, like, mother-in-laws, right? Of, like, just the way that they talk about, a daughter-in-law that's cheated. Like, as a woman, right? I just feel like we should stand more with each other, but that doesn't always happen, and that's really sad to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm guilty of it. I know, Kelly and I have talked about this before, privately, and I'm guilty of it. I think it's, to immediately be like, to be judgmental of another woman, and I don't know, for me, if that comes from a place of insecurity. It probably does, or a place of fear, or a place of, like, my own acknowledgement, or my own inability to publicly acknowledge my shortfalls, my shortcomings, my mistakes, and I think that, this is something that, we definitely need to delve deeper. Like, I'm looking at some of the remarks from some of our audience members, and I mean, this is such a deep, it's not just a conversation that we can just have in 30 minutes. I mean, there's so much that ties into this. It's mental health, it's insecurity, which I mean, I think everything stems from, mental health, and a lack of communication about, whatever it is, battles that we're fighting in, deep inside, that we're not maybe keeping from our spouses. I mean, I do believe that sometimes, a man cheats because, he's dealing with something that, his wife can't handle, or, vice versa. But, for those guys who are, sorry, Callie, I got to address the audience really quickly, because some of the guys are commenting that, there's no guys on the panel. And if you guys, after this is over, please rewatch this so you can see that, in the beginning, it's not really one-sided. I mean, I don't think this is a man bashing thing. We're really talking openly about, men and women. I mean, I admit, I cheated before. And, so please watch this whole thing in its entirety.
Yeah, this is by no means a panel of experts on, what's happening. This is just kind of setting the foundation, because it's like such a big topic, and of course, like Arlene says, we're not going to resolve it. So there is one comment that we have that here. If we have a male rep in this combo, do you ladies think we might attack him because he will be speaking from a male perspective? And I don't think so. This is not to say all men are cheaters. Like I'm not saying all men. Like there are great Hmong men, there are great men in general that don't cheat, you know. So this is not saying that if there's a Ning with us talking with us, we would be like, oh, like you're, you know, like I'm not, you know, I love men. I don't like men. So.
And if you're a cheater, we want to know why you cheated. If you are candid enough to share with us why you cheated.
Yeah, like whether you're a man or a woman. It's not, this isn't just like,
and we're not here to bash anybody.
Right, we're here to learn, actually.
And I think this is the beginning of more shows specifically on this topic because, you know, the plan is to get a male perspective in and to kind of look at that and how can we both have a healthy conversation on how people are treated and view and how do we start changing that perspective, right? And how do we start changing how people view how women are or treat women are treated and men too. I mean, I think just from my own personal opinion and my own personal experience is that Jane Mona, they are treated way worse than men. Even though this young on fault now, right? Like her husband could be beating her, could be doing all types of things, and he ends up cheating. Right? But you're like dying inside. You have no way of escaping. And so I think we do need to have a serious conversation, and it's not to bash on men, but it's to truly understand the reasons why women are bashed and are treated so badly in the Hmong community. And how do we start changing that perspective? Now, that's not to say that Hmong men aren't treated just as bad. There are other ways that they're treated. But because we don't know that perspective, we do need to have that conversation with a Hmong man. And the plan is to bring one on, but obviously we can't fit that all on one episode. So just know that this is one of many conversations that we're going to start having in regards to this specific topic, because we do believe that it is so important that we do talk about it. So then we have a clear understanding of what the heck's going on? How can we make a change? How do we start, you know, treating each other with compassion and respect each other instead of like women degrade women because of whatever X reason that has happened to her life. We don't know what she's been through. And so, you know, it's hard to put ourselves there. But I think just as humans, we tend to have that tendency as just like, oh my gosh, did you hear XYZ? Right. And so just know this is one of many conversations. It's not the only one. And at no means do we mean to bash on any men in general.
Yeah.
Or women.
Well, I love the men that are commenting. We would love to have you on here. Yeah, I mean, we're not bashing. I mean, I want to hear your perspective. And, you know, I would like you to come, with all your baggage. It's all good. I mean, if you feel safe, you know, and if it's something that, you know, maybe in the past that you can share with us, we'd love to hear that. There's no bashing here. I mean, we're here to learn. We want to grow. You know, I don't have children. For those of you who have kids, especially daughters, you know, I mean, this is an important conversation. We need to have this conversation so that we don't repeat the mistakes that we have for generations that I feel that holds back our Hmong community, you know, because of a lack of understanding, a lack of, do I truly believe there will always be equality? No. I mean, that's my honest, you know, I don't think there's anything such as true equality, and you just have to be okay with that. There's always going to be some give and take, you know, but you just have to weigh out what your options are. But does it have to resort to what we're seeing in our community? No. Does it have to resort to, you know, murder, suicides? No, it doesn't have to resort to that. How can we stop this? How can we fix this? What kind of help can we provide for our community so that way we can give our kids, you know, our future generation, a fair chance. I mean, keep in mind, these are the kids, you know, I say to my brothers all the time, you know, that, hey, you know, be careful what, you know, the jokes that you make in front of your daughters, right? Even if it's a well-meaning joke and it's just in front of your boys, because this is a generation that's going to be wiping your ass.
Yeah.
Think about it. You know, it's the truth. We're moving away from a generation of keeping our parents at home, right? I mean, you know, my mom, she's going to be with us until her dying days. But I don't know. I mean, I know that with my sisters that have kids, I don't know if my nieces and nephews are going to care for them. And so we want to raise a generation of, I think, socially, socially, you know, responsible and aware kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So speaking of time, we are like, I can't believe we're 30 minutes.
Like the conversation just started.
Getting into it. And so I think what I want to do is maybe, we can kind of do maybe our biggest takeaway. I felt like something just kind of popped into my mind as I'm listening. And again, this is such a, like I said, right? We're barely like touching the surface of this topic.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like my biggest takeaway is really that, I think the gossip and the demeaning and the way that we are perceiving people, like that kind of stops. That could potentially stop with us, right? Like it doesn't have to go beyond us. And I think if everybody can just apply that, I think that we could really try to move forward and just look at facts and try to resolve issues that, like with the cheating, right? Just let the people who are involved, like if that's not your situation, you don't need to be spreading any rumors or really saying hateful things to people that you don't know about. So I think that's my biggest takeaway. Olivia?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's just really making sure that we do have a conversation with, men. I think it is important to get their perspective. And I think this is a conversation that my husband and I continue to have. So we understand kind of where men come from and where women come from. So I know that in my own relationship and in my home, those are conversations we are having. But now it's time to kind of go out and really have it with our circle. Maybe that would be the next step, right? So I think the takeaway for me is just to continue to have those conversations, and hopefully bring someone on board that can really help articulate that for the men as well. And so we can have a grown-up conversation about that. So.
And I'm going to echo off of Olivia stating that, I mean, this needs to be an open dialogue because cheating happens to both men and women do that. And we shouldn't blame one sex or the other, the reason why they cheated. But the fact is that it is happening. But how does that impact men and women in general? And currently, women do get bashed more when they are the cheater. They get called names, and we shouldn't. I do want to address the comment here that Rebecca stated that women don't understand the girl code. And I don't necessarily agree with that because men still cheat with married women. That does happen. So just wanted to address that comment.
In closing, I utter really all of your sentiments. I wanted to actually address Tria as well too. I think what I take away from this is that we need to learn how to speak Hmong. Tria biết mà hay Hmong.
Okay, so at the end of the day, this is a Hmong topic, but we have audiences that are not Hmong, which is why we primarily speak. So.
No, but Tria, thank you. That's something that we definitely need to work on too, because of course, we're if we're focusing on, how can we fix our broken brothers and sisters, then of course we need to learn to speak the language too. But yeah, like Callie said, we have a wide audience, and so our English is our default. But yeah, I mean,
ladies, but it's still Halumoma, So I just show you guys up.
But I mean, in closing, I'm just glad to be a part of this, that I got to guest host on this panel. I mean, judging from the comments from the audience, I think that I appreciate the men jumping on here, and I appreciate you guys being open, and you saying, hey, we need to have guys on here. We do. Please be one of those guys. If you are willing to step in and have an open, honest conversation, you're going to create the pathway. You're going to be the guy who's going to create change instead of feeling like I'm going to be emasculated if I sit with a panel of women and have this conversation about something that is a very known taboo. So I can't even say that it's a taboo anymore, right? It's a very known fact in our community. We're seeing it more and more. That gets swept under the rug every time. And, Oshande is not going to work. It obviously isn't. I mean, it doesn't hit home until it's like coronavirus right now, right? It doesn't hit home until something that that is dead. And so we don't want that. So yeah, please jump on.
I mean, like I think that the thing is that I don't always get why this becomes like a men versus women issue. It's like a community issue. This isn't like you know, when women are talking about it, this isn't like women bashing men, because like I said, not all men are cheaters. If you're not cheating, you got nothing to worry about. And that's the same for women, right? And so I feel like this is not really a men versus women thing. This is a community thing. And as a community, we need to support the cheater and the cheated, right? Because there's obviously issues. And the fix of that really isn't to be talking shit again and again and again, right? And like rubbing people's, you know, smearing people's names. Like that's not the answer. So just my last little thought on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for tuning into all of that talk. Just we wanted to let everyone know that conversations drive change, and it all starts with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies, for having me.
Bye.
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 Bye.